My name is Sandra Graham. I had polio at age 9. I am now dealing with post-polio sequelae for the past 30 years. I was forgotten on a pickup. The guy that was driving the cab to pick me up was the same guy that had dropped me off 2.5 hours earlier, and it took him 1 hour and 45 minutes to find me, and they had to call me again from the dispatcher. Luckily, I had a cell phone at the time. The previous time I didn't have a cell phone, and I had to go back in and use the phone at one of the companies there to get a hold of them again and say, please come and pick me up so that I can go get my car. In that particular case, the other time I didn't have a car. I was pretty much stranded sitting out there in the heat, and that was a bad thing because I'm kind of I'm cold responsive during the winter and heat responsive during the summer, and so I ended up with a slight heat stroke that day, so I was not happy. It was not a good day. Both times the access to that van that they used for handicapped people the ramp was in the back end, and both times the two separate drivers had to push my chair because my chair wasn't strong enough to pull it up and put me into that little trough that they had at the back end. It's not flat, it sits in a trough. You tip forward, which is not comfortable and somewhat dangerous for somebody who's not strapped into the chair. And both times my toes were pinched, and so I had to pull my legs around to get situated, and the rides were not all that comfortable. And I thought that, and then again, the driver, when unloading, had to get behind and stabilize me to get me down the long ramp for access and deloading, and I wasn't comfortable with that. It was very, very uncomfortable. I'd rather see somebody set up these units so that they were for the handicapped, that you can get into with a lift and or a lower ramp, a lower unit. It wasn't exactly a good thing, and so I opted not to use cabs again. And until they get something that's better, that's where I'm going to be, I guess. It wasn't strapped down, it was in the back, it was at a bad angle, and I was grateful to get out of it. And I promised myself I wouldn't use the local cabs again.
What would your doctor say about us sitting like that in the car?
Well, he tells me try to stay on even ground if possible. Even when I go to church, I can't sit down by the pews because I have to sit in the back where it's flat instead of the declining thing. And even in movies, I have to be in a flat area. I can't sit forward. It's not good for the back, and it puts your wheelchair and you in a position where you might slip out of it too, because I'm not strapped in.
Okay, so it's definitely not medically sound for you?
No, it's not. It's not physically safe, and it's not medically sound. Well, it would be nice if they would have the sliding doors on the side and a lower unit so that you could just be lifted in, or you'd have lower ramps so that you could get in and then be strapped down. Sitting in the back end like that in a trough, it's not exactly the best thing in the world that I would recommend for anybody. I'd like them to be a little more trained so that they're aware of what the handicap limitations are for people. I can't imagine somebody calling for a handicapped cab on the ones that I used and being on a walker or crutches and having to be able to climb into those vans. I think those are very inappropriate and very dangerous. I think the companies are laying themselves wide open for liability.